or there's gonna be a guy that say, you know what, I don't want to play here no more. He done said this about 5 or 4 of his exes already. He's like, look, I don't even want to be here no more. I don't like the way y'all doing things. Go somewhere else. Life's a little bit better. He now returns back to Miami for this is his first time back since the trade. We gonna talk about it because Jimmy got sold. Jimmy got sold. If you don't know about it, go check it out on YouTube. But Jimmy Butler thinks that the Heat culture is a little bit overused. And before I let Dave go, I hope I got the right quote. You know, sometimes, AI be setting you up. But he said, I'm not saying it in a bad way, but I think it's a little bit like overused talking about the Heat culture. It's a great organization, but I think a large part of the culture is you get guys that buy into a winning mindset. You get guys that buy in, you get guys that rally, you get good players, and you get good opportunity, and you talk about Heat culture a little bit more. I'm not saying it to talk down or anything like that, but I think whenever you really have good players, you can name it whatever you want to name it. Shout out to the
You know, I have been very, very critical of the Miami Heat and this entire situation with Jimmy Butler. I've been pro Jimmy this entire time. If y'all pay attention to what I've been saying, I've been pro Jimmy. I'll say 98, 95% of the time I've been pro Jimmy. Jimmy does get some fault in this, of course, because of the relationship that he had with Pat and, how they both, pretty much butted heads. And some of the things that he did or said, some people say he didn't give effort and nothing like that. But there's been a question that's been asked a lot about Miami Heat. And people want to know what Heat culture is. Well, let me introduce you to the guy who introduced it to the Miami Heat and who brought it here after he, when he took over.
Been here. It's very simple, okay, and I think it covers the board if you have any kind of an imagination. And I think I've explained this at times to you, Peter, about what our mission is. Our mission in Miami was that we wanted to become the hardest working, best conditioned, most professional, unselfish, toughest, most admired team in the NBA.
That is what Heat culture is supposed to represent. There are other things that people want to know, like what else is like what's tell us more. Tell us more. So hardworking, relentless, professional, and unselfish play. Best condition, toughest, meanest, nastiest team in the NBA. That's fine. D Wade used to say this thing when he was in Miami. Nothing is difficult. Everything is a challenge. Through adversity, we'll be strong. Every last minute, every last second, every man, we fight. That's what Dwayne Wade used to say in the huddle a lot. That is what Heat culture is supposed to represent. However, I feel like the person that introduced this to Miami did not hold this up to himself. Because if you say that you're professional, then how come you weren't professional when it came to the Jimmy Butler situation after the playoffs last year? Why weren't you professional during that time? That was unprofessional of you, Pat Riley, to tell Jimmy to shut up in front of everybody. That's unprofessional. That's not Heat culture. Now, I'm also holding Miami Heat to some of this heat as well, because when you talk about meanest, nastiest team in the NBA, when you think about the Miami Heat right now, y'all, and I want to hear your answer. Do you think this team is one of the meanest, nastiest teams in the NBA? Just this season.
No, sorry, Bob.
Nah.
Okay. So that pretty much makes it that part of it non-existent, along with the professional and unselfish play. You can kind of sort of hear that, but that's not what you see in Miami Heat basketball. Now, I also did some research to see exactly how we are, because When you hear about toughness, you think about physicality. You think about defense. 12th in defensive rating. So we're not even top 10 in defensive rating. We're 18th in steals. That's not good. 18th in steals? There's 30 teams in the NBA. So there's 17 teams better in steals than you in the league. Guess where we are in blocks?
26.
Last in the NBA.
He ain't got no big man.
We are 14th in opponents' fast break points. None of these numbers are good. I'm telling you this right now. I'm just letting you, none of these numbers are good. 17th in opponents' points in the paint. This is because we did not have Khalil Ware starting center when we needed him. If you look in the fourth quarter, he's not playing a lot of big minutes. He's a 7-foot center who can block shots and get rebounds. He's a pretty good defender. But what does Spo like to do? He likes to play small ball lineups. He'll have Bam at the 5. When Bam does not like to play the 5, he plays his best at the 4. If you look at when he switched from the 5 to the 4, he actually played a lot better at the 4 because that's his natural position. He's 6'9". He's not a center. I get it. He played center, but he's not a center. Now, if you want to look at offense, that's supposed to be the finesse part, I guess. But you can still be physical in offense. 15th in turnover percentage. That means we turn the ball over a lot. That's undisciplined play. That's not disciplined basketball. 23rd in offensive rating. Also not good. 19th in net rating. Not good. 28th in offensive rebounds. We're not physical when we need to be. This is not what Miami Heat playing right now is not Heat culture. Now, where I disagree on Jimmy is when he said that it's overused. I wouldn't say that it's overused. I would say that it's not explained. It's not explained enough for people to understand what Heat culture is. Most people, when they come to Miami Heat and they understand that the environment is different. When you go to other teams, if you talk about winning coaches, you talk about Boston. You hear anything about Boston culture? Do you hear anything about Warriors culture? You hear about a winning culture. You hear about a winning culture, but you don't hear anything that says Warriors culture. When you think about the Lakers, you don't hear Lakers culture. You can name all the other good teams in the NBA. There's no specific culture there. It's either a winning culture or a losing culture. But it has no specific name to it. Heat culture is something that's specific with the Miami Heat. Because there's no other team that cares about your health. There's no other team that talks about that. Because remember, when Kyle Lowry was on the team, he was getting criticized a lot because he was not healthy. Think about when Shaq was here. Shaq was out of shape as well. During that time, Shaq was being criticized as well because he was out of shape. That's one thing about Miami Heat culture is when it comes to being in Miami, you have to be in shape. They look at it, all of that stuff. So that's Heat culture. Heat culture is staying in shape, being professional, being tough defensively and offensively, being one of the meanest, nasty teams in the NBA. Right now, we don't represent that, but I won't say that it's overused. Because if you look at all the teams, and if you look at how it was represented before this season, Miami Heat was a team that a lot of teams were scared of. Well, I won't say scared of, but a lot of teams had to make sure they were extra prepared for. That's what I'll say. They had to make sure they were extra prepared for because Miami Heat in the playoffs, no matter who was there, you had to make sure you came ready to play the game. Because no matter if it was Andre Iguodala who was on the team, when we had it's not James Crowder, is it? Is that his name? It's not James Crowder. It's some
Jameson. No, I'm thinking about the wide receiver.
I
It's
can't
Crowder though. I know Crowder. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, the dreads.
He's
Yeah.
on your team right now,
He look-
Joe.
He look like Burna Boy.
But if you think about all the when I name these players, you're gonna automatically think Heat culture. Alonzo Mourning, Jay Crowder, Alonzo Mourning, Udonis Haslem, Tim Hardaway, Eddie Jones, Rashul Butler, Cameron Butler, James Posey, Eddie House, Mike Miller, Shane Battier. What do all these guys did? They brought some kind of toughness to them. They brought whatever it is. It was some kind of toughness, some kind of professionalism that they brought to the Heat culture. That's what you're supposed to have here. Technically, that's supposed to be represented by Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero. Now, Bam shows some toughness, but it's not consistent. Tyler Hero shows some toughness, but it's not consistent. That's not to say that they don't represent Heat culture, but it's not exactly what you see out of the leader in Heat culture. Because the leader in Heat culture is Dwayne Wade. You hear they still call it Wade County. Jimmy Butler represented that. That's how it has to be. And right now, Miami Heat basketball, Heat culture has not shown up. That Heat culture is not having 19 double-digit leads and blowing them and losing those games. That's not Heat culture. I won't say it's overused. It just has never been really fully explained.
I just got one thing I want to say about that one. When I heard him say that the term Heat culture is overused, I was wondering, like, is he taking a shot at Udonis Haslem? Because he's one of the people that like speaks about that culture a lot whenever he's on TV. He's like, look, this is what the culture is. And everything that you said, Dave, is essentially what he says the Heat culture is. So I was like, is he talking about that? Because that's the only time I hear people talk about it. Or like the 5 years that he was there showing what the Heat culture is.
No, I don't believe Jimmy was taking a shot at anybody. I think he was just talking about the term because I do hear it a lot. You hear when other NBA players talk about Miami, they mention Heat culture. When you look at other analysts, they mention Heat culture. So it is used a lot. So it's just that people don't explain it for people to understand what it actually is.
He did say I'm not saying it in a bad way. I get him, but I mean that's a great thing to have when people think of your team is that you know what the culture is. Like when you say the players that you named, we can name 6 players now. If you think of Marcus Smart, he was like, if Marcus Smart was to go to the Miami Heat, you'd be like, okay, he fits the culture.
Dylan Brooks, even if I name Dylan Brooks, he would fit. He would fit the culture. There are guys that you can name. John Morant, he would fit Heat culture. If you think about Anthony Edwards, he would fit Heat culture. There's just certain guys. There's just certain guys that you name. You can say, all right, I could see them in Miami. You can't see them. No. one by the slip that through. No.
So Tomo, if you can you read the quote? I know it's a long quote. Can you read the quote again? Sorry.
I'm not saying it in a bad way, but I think it's a little bit like overused talking about the Heat culture. Mm-hmm. It's a great organization, but I think a large part of the culture is you get guys to buy into a winning mindset. You get some guys that buy in. You get some really good players, and you get the opportunity to talk about Heat culture a little bit more. I'm not saying it to talk down or anything, but I think whenever you have a really good whenever you have really good players, you can name it whatever you want to name it. Yeah.
Appreciate it, Tomo. Now, so I kind of agree with Jimmy, but I kind of disagree with Jimmy. Miami Heat, like they said, they do have a culture. Like, don't y'all have like this conditioning, like a conditioning standard?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
that's automatically tied to Heat culture.
You see what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, I hear the words Heat culture from other people outside of Miami than people actually in Miami. Like you said, analysts, like I said, you hear a player, oh, he fits when Jimmy Butler signed, everybody, he fits the Heat culture. So I get what he's saying. Like you have guys that buy in, you can call it what you want, like the Warriors. But Heat culture, we get what it is. Heat culture means like he's explaining in the video. The Warriors culture was strength in numbers, but it showed. It was on display, strength in numbers, and that's just how it is, So I agree with the Heat culture quote and what it represents. And I know you read I know you're upset that y'all blowing a lot of leads. Y'all not looking like Heat culture right now, but the part I agree with Jimmy is you gotta have the personnel to fit the culture. And right now, y'all personnel, especially
Don't
with the
fit.
guards, yeah, like it
Don't
don't fit. Jimmy was the missing piece y'all needed, and then it showed. Like it went to a new level. So that's that. And also Miami, like it's hard to judge Miami Heat in the regular season. Like I remember 2 years ago, they were like 30 even blocks. I looked up, there were 30 even blocks and 27 in rebounding 2 years ago, and they went to the finals. Because in the playoffs, Miami Heat, that's when the real grit shows. Regular season, man, y'all were number one seed one time, and it was crazy because y'all were hurt. Like if it was in and out the lineup, y'all still been number one seed. But outside of that year, y'all were what, the fourth seed at best in the bubble. Outside of that, y'all were just like
We were the 5th seed in the bubble.
there it is. Y'all were the fifth seed in the bubble. So y'all never really had home court advantage in the first round. Outside of that first when Jimmy Butler was there. Outside of that first year, that number one seed year. So the regular season is hard to judge Miami. But when they get to the playoffs, like if y'all get to the playoffs this year, because y'all sliding, if y'all get there, or even the play-in, and y'all look how y'all look in the regular season, like get blown out after having a big lead, then we can throw that Heat coach away for the season. But if y'all compete and like take somebody to the wire, even if y'all get swept, if it's a close game, every game, that's Heat coaches showing up because y'all do play hard. Y'all give y'all best shot, whoever y'all play. Even the Nuggets won 4-1, but Jokic had to be and Jamal had to be all world to win those games. Like Jokic played perfectly almost that series, and y'all were playing good. It's like they were just good. They just great, So I agree with the Heat coaching standpoint, but like Jimmy said, you gotta have players to fit the culture.
That's the part.
Yep, that's the same thing I said. You gotta have the players. We don't have that leader in Miami. Jimmy was perfect for Miami.
I thought Bam was like, what the heck?
Nah, Bam said a couple seasons ago that he didn't want to be the leader, so he doesn't fit it.
Somebody will come around.
We'll see.
Watching that video though, I was like, I don't know, is that Pat Riley or is that Jerry Jones? I was feeling a little way.
Hey, I think Miami winning too, by the way. Check the score a little bit. Miami winning. Okay, Dave. Y'all 28-22 in the first quarter.
I don't care about an early lead. I don't care about an early lead.
Just talk about blown leads, Joe.
Talk about lead in the first 3 quarters. I need to see what's going on in the fourth.
Jimmy Butler got 2 points, 1 for 3. 6 turnovers. I'm just playing.
Yeah,
6 turnovers.
Turnovers. That don't sound like Jimmy.
So the crowd done got to him.
The whole thing, he got 0.
Well,